Swirl Meander, how do I love thee? Let me count the ways. You're so fun and easy to quilt. There's not a quilt top you wouldn't look great on. You're just perfect in every way. Okay, well, if you want to love quilting the Swirl Meander as much as I do, then this tutorial is for you. I'm going to show you just how easy it is to quilt using the basic swirl shape with a little echoing, and then show you a fun variation in which we elongate them and add a lot more echoing. So for this tutorial, I'm changing up my thread. Up to this point, I've been using that turquoise thread, but I feel like you can't quite see it on the video. So I've opted for a hot pink thread. This is called Glide thread. It's a 40 weight, so it's a little bit thicker than I typically use. What's great about it is even though it's a slightly different weight, I'm still using the same needle. So let's get to quilting with this fun hot pink thread. Before I start to quilt my Swirl Meander, I'm going to go ahead and stitch along all the seams of my block. This isn't something I've done in the quilting along up to this point, but it is something that I like to do when I'm quilting other quilts. Normally, I'll stitch along the seams before I get started with the quilting, although sometimes I'll do it after. It's actually not that hard once you get the hang of it. What I'm going to do is use a ruler to help me keep my lines somewhat straight along that seam. And I'm going to quilt in small increments. That way I can adjust as I'm quilting, because let's face it, my seams are not going to be perfectly straight. If the seams are pressed to one side, I like to try to quilt along the low side as close as I can to the edge, and that will just kind of help it disappear into the seam. Now that the seams are all stitched in, I'm ready to start quilting my swirl. The basic shape is pretty easy. I'm going to quilt a line that curls in on itself. I want that swirl to be nice and round. Quilting it about the size of a quarter is a great size to start with. After you quilt the first part of your swirl, it's time for step 2, which is the most important part. You want to finish that swirl before you go into your next one. What that means is I'm going to echo my way back out, echoing around the outside of that swirl. And I have my first swirl shape. But we know it's not the first swirl that's difficult to quilt, it's the second, third, fourth, and fifth one that give us trouble. So let's see how to fill in this whole area with the Swirl Meander. This design doesn't touch anything else, so as soon as I approach the edge of my area, and then quilt my next little swirl. Finishing it by echoing around the outside until I get close to running into something. So there's my first 2 little swirls right there. Now here's something I don't want you to worry about. I'm not worried about which way my swirls are facing. That doesn't matter. Instead, I'm focusing on keeping that spacing as consistent as possible. So when I go to add my next one, I'm not worrying about which direction it's going. I'm just quilting my little swirl and then echoing my way back out. Echoing is your best quilting friend. You can echo the swirl you just quilted, or you can echo a previously quilted swirl, which is what I'm going to do here. I'm going to try really hard to keep that spacing consistent. As long as the spacing is consistent, it's going to make it all look good. If you find yourself getting stuck in an area, just echo your way out or travel along the edge, whatever it takes to get out of that spot. Then you can go right into your next swirl. I'm quilting my swirls so they all stick together nice and close. I don't want any gaps in the quilting area. I want to make sure that I don't have to come back and fill anything in. And I'm using echoing to move around. If you find that you're having a hard time getting your swirls nice and round, one thing you can try doing is maybe speeding up just a little bit. Sometimes going just a little bit faster will help you get that momentum going and help you get that nice, smoother swirl. That consistent spacing between the lines is what helps the whole design have such a nice texture. What I love about machine quilting is that once you get the idea of a basic shape, you can quilt so many different variations of that. In fact, I have a craftsy class called Small Changes, Big Variety, where I show you how to take classic quilting designs, such as a swirl, and add different variations to them to get some fun effects. Now, if you want to check out that class, you can find all the information below in the description box. But now I'm going to show you a really fun variation of the swirl in which we quilt an elongated swirl. This is perfect for adding movement or texture to your quilts. There's no traveling, no touching, but you get a slightly different look. So let me show you how easy it is to quilt that one. I'm going to quilt a nice elongated swirl. And then I'm going to echo, echo, echo the swirl. What that means is just going around and really building up that shape. And you can echo it as many times as you like, but when you're ready, you can go ahead and add your next one going in a different direction. And maybe have an elongated one going down over here. Echoing, there's no touching, so as soon as I get close, I'm going to hop back the other way and echo. Now the hardest part about this kind of swirl is that you're going to get some weird gaps in between them. So we're going to use echoing to fill those in. And we're also going to add some little swirls if necessary. But as soon as those gaps are filled in and I'm ready to quilt my next one, I'm going to quilt it nice and long and I'm going to make it go in a lot of different directions. And I'm going to echo, echo, echo. Now this design is echo heavy. That means we're going to be echoing the shapes a lot. And a couple tips to help you get more comfortable with echoing is to use the foot of your machine as a guide. Running that foot along your previously quilted line will give you that consistent spacing that we're striving for. Also, look ahead of the needle. Don't look right where you're quilting. You want to look on down the road so that you can adjust. But most importantly, don't worry about keeping the spacing so perfect. I would rather focus on having that line nice and smooth than perfectly spaced. If I get stuck with a corner like this, I can always add more echoes or some little swirls. It doesn't matter as long as the spacing is somewhat consistent. And I'm just going to travel my way right on out to the other side. So I'm going to just keep quilting elongated swirls and filling in this whole area. And we'll see what it looks like when I'm done. We have it, two swirl variations that are very similar in how they go together, but a slightly different look for your quilts. So, what do you think? Are you in love with the Swirl Meander yet? If you're participating in the Free-motion Challenge Quilting Along, go ahead and quilt either variation or both on your square. And check out the second video in which I'm going to show you how to quilt the Feather Meander. Happy quilting!